Reading English Story Little House in the Big Woods Chapter 1 Part 1 of 2 Once upon a time, 60 years ago, a little girl lived in the big woods of Wisconsin, in a little gray house made of logs. The great, dark trees of the big woods stood all around the house, and beyond them were other trees, and beyond them were more trees, as far as a man could go to the north in a day or a week or a whole month. There was nothing but woods. There were no houses. There were no roads. There were no people. There were only trees and the wild animals who had their house among them. Wolves live in the big woods, and bears, and huge wild cats, muskrats and mink, and otter live by the streams. Foxes had dens in the hills, and deer roamed everywhere. To the east of the little log house, and to the west, there were miles upon miles of trees, and only a few little log houses scattered far apart in the edge of the big woods. So far as the little girl could see, there was only the one little house where she lived with her father and mother, her sister Mary, and baby sister Carrie. A wagon track ran before the house, turning and twisting out of sight in the woods where the wild animals live. But the little girl did not know where it went, nor what might be at the end of it. The little girl was named Laura, and she called her father Pa and her mother Ma. In those days and in that place, children did not say father and mother nor mama and papa as they do now. At night, when Laura lay awake in the trundle bed, she listened and could not hear anything at all but the sound of the trees whispering together. Sometimes, far away in the night, a wolf howled. Then he came nearer and howled again. It was a scary sound. Laura knew that wolf could eat little girls, but she was safe inside the solid log walls. Her father's gun hung over the door, and good old Jack, the brindle bulldog, lay on guard before it. Her father would say, "Go to sleep, Laura. Jack won't let the wolves in." So Laura snuggled under the covers of the trundle bed, close beside Mary, and went to sleep. One night, her father picked her up out of the bed and carried her to the window so that she might see the wolves. There were two of them sitting in front of the house. They looked like shaky dogs. They pointed their nose at the big, bright moon and howled. Jack passed up and down before the door, growling. The hair stood up along his back, and he showed his sharp fierce teeth to the wolf. They howled, but they could not get in. The house was a comfortable house. Upstairs there was a large attic, pleasant to play in when the rain drummed on the roof. Downstairs was a small bedroom and a big room. The bedroom had a window that closed with a wooden shutter. The big room had two windows with glass in the panels, and it had two doors, a front door and a back door. All around the house was a crook rail fence to keep the bears and the deers away. In the yard in front of the house were two beautiful big oak trees. Every morning, as soon as she was awake, Laura ran to look out at the window, and one morning she saw in each a big tree a dead deer hanging from a branch. Pa had shot the deer the day before, and Laura had been asleep when he brought them home at night and hung them high in the trees so the wolf could not get the meat. That day Pa and Ma and Laura and Mary had fresh venison for dinner. It was so good that Laura wishes they could eat it all, but most of the meat must be salted and smoked and packed away to be eaten in the winter. For winter was coming. The days were shorter and frost crawled up the window panes at night. Soon the snow would come. Then the log house would be almost buried in snowdrift, and the lake and the stream would freeze. Bitter cold weather, Pa could not be sure of finding any wild game to shoot for meat. The bears would be hidden away in their dens, where they sleep soundly all winter long. The squirrel would be cold in their nest in hollow trees, with their furry tails lapped snuggled around their nose. The deer and the rabbits would be shy and swift. Even if Pa could get a deer, it would be poor and thin, not fat and plump as deer are in the fall. Pa might hunt along all day in the bitter cold, in the big woods covered with snow, and come home at night with nothing for Ma and Mary and Laura to eat. So as much food as possible must be stowed away in the little house before winter came. Pa skinned the deer carefully and salted and stretched the hides, for he would make soft leather of them. Then he cut up the meat and sprinkled salt over the piece as he laid them on a board. Standing on end in the yard was a tall length cut from the trunk of a big hollow tree. Pa had driving nails inside as far as he could reach from each end. Then he stood it up, put a little roof over the top, and cut a little door on one side near the bottom. On the piece that he cut out, he fastened leather hides. Then he filled it into place, and that the little door with the dark steel on it. After the deer meat had been salted several days, Pa cut a hole near the end of each piece and put a string through it. Laura watches him to do this, and then she watches him hang the meat on the nails in the hollow rock. He reaches up through the little door and hung meat on the nails, as far up as he could reach. Then he put the ladder against the rock, climbed up to the top, moved the roof to one side, and reaches down inside to hang meat on those nails. Then Pa put the roof back again, climbed down the ladder, and said to Laura, "Run over to the chopping block and fetch me some of these green hickory chips, new, clean, white ones." So Laura ran to the block where Pa chopped wood and filled her apron with the fresh, sweet-smelling chips. Just inside a little door in the hollow block, Pa built a fire of tiny bits of bark and moss, and he laid some of the chip on it very carefully. Instead of burning quickly, the clean chips smoked and filled the hollow rock with thick, choking smoke. Pa shut the door, and a little smoke squirted through the crack around it, and a little smoke came out through the roof, but most of it was shut in with the meat. There is nothing better than good hickory smoke, Pa said. That will make good venison that will keep anywhere in any weather. Then he took his gun, and slinging his axe on his shoulder, he went away to the clearing to cut down some more trees. Rora and Ma watched the fire for several days. When the smoke stopped coming through the cracks, Rora would bring more hickory chips, and Ma would put them on the fire under the meat. All the time there was a little smell of smoke in the yard, and when the door was opened, a thick, smoky, mildew smell came out. At last, Pa said, the venison had smoked long enough. Then they let the fire go out, and Pa took all the strips and pieces of meat out of the hollow tree. Ma wrapped each piece neatly in paper and hung them in the attic where they would keep safe and dry. One morning, Pa went away before daylight with the horses and wagon. And that night he came home with a wagon load of fish. The big wagon bags was pillar full, and some of the fish were as big as Rora. Pa had gone to the lake Pepin and caught them all with a net. Ma cut large slices of freaky white fish without one bone for Rora and Mary. They all fussed on the good fresh fish. All they did not eat fresh was salt out in barrels for the winter. Pa owned a pig. It ran wild in the big woods, living on acorn and nuts and roots. Now he caught it and put it in a pen made of logs to fatten. He would butcher it as soon as the weather was cold enough to keep the pork frozen. Once in the middle of the night, Rora woke up and heard the pig squealing. Pa jumped out of bed, snatched his gun from the wall, and ran outdoors. Then Rora heard the gun go off once, twice. When Pa came back, he told what had happened. He had seen a big black bear standing beside the pig pen. The bear was reaching into the pen to grab the pig, and the pig was landing and squealing. Pa saw his starlight, and he fired quickly, but the light was dim, and in his haste he missed the bear. The bear ran away into the woods, not hurt at all. Rora was sorry Pa did not get the bear. She liked bear meat so much. Pa was sorry too, but he said, anyway, I saved the bacon. The garden behind the little house had been growing all summer. It was so near the house that the deer did not jump the fence and eat the vegetable in the daytime. And at night, Jack kept them away. Sometime in the morning, there were a little hoof prints among the carrots and the cabbage, but Jack's tracks were there, too, and the deer had jumped right out again. Now the potatoes and carrots, the beets and turnips, and cabbage were gathered and stored in the cellar, for freezing night had come. Onions were made into long ropes, braided together by their tops, and then were hung in the attic beside the weight. Red pepper strung in the tray. The pumpkin and the squash were peeled in orange and yellow and green heaps in the attic corners. The barrels of salt fish were in the pantry, and yellow cheese was stacked on the pantry shelves. Then one day, Uncle Henry came riding out of the big woods. He had come to help Pa Butcher. Ma's big butcher knife was already sharpened, and Uncle Henry had brought Aunt Polly's butcher knife.